Nancy. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce our next performer as someone you probably all know, co-founder of Pittsburgh Community Theater, David Ward, with a very special announcement and song.
Hello. You know, our community was so blessed when Betty and Forrest Brown decided to move here to Pittsburgh to pursue their teaching careers. It was in 1973 that Betty had this dream of having a viable live theater here in Pittsburgh. So she started an adult education drama class. Her first show, would you believe, was 1984. Nothing like something, you know, sort of out there, starring Betty Gregg and Greg Brown. Actually, they were in the show, but okay. And then we did a Christmas. Then they did a Christmas Miser, followed by No, No, a Million Times No, and that's when I joined the organization. Since that time, Betty's dream has just grown and grown. She never gave up. We had so many different obstacles in our path. Since we were always looking for money, we always were trying to find a place that would donate so we could have our costumes and set pieces, which meant we moved about 20 times in the course of the 40 years, moving everything from here to there when someone would lease a building or whatever. We had things vandalized, destroyed. 1 week before we opened in the big stage, somebody threw a bucket of paint on our set. You know, we've had all these, like you had said, ups and downs, but through the whole thing, Betty persevered, and she had this dream to keep the live theater here in Pittsburgh. Everything was going just great, and then what happened in 1978? Proposition 13. And all of the fluffy adult education classes were cut. But Betty continued with her dream, and we continued on, performing in churches, at City Hall, at the city gym, at different schools. And it just, she was just so fantastic that she just kept us going and going and going. And something that was unique about our adult education drama class, we had a board of directors. And we had a say in what the shows were for the next season. I think deep down in my heart, Betty was grooming us to become an independent theater group here in town. So her whole goal was there, set and established. I'm wearing baby blue today because way back when, our programs consisted of one piece of paper folded in half. And we didn't think we'd want to go with white, so we picked baby blue. And so that's sort of our unofficial PCT color of baby blue. We have been so successful in many, many things, giving back to the community. PCT has offered free shows to the elementary schools in lieu of paying rent for the Creative Arts Building when we did our children's shows. And Betty would go to those elementary schools and prime the kids on what they were going to see. So when they came here, they understood what the show was about. And we also participated in the Halloween Bash at Small World Park. And we do free half-hour programs for any groups or organizations just to help promote our shows. In this theater, the curtains you see, the carpet you see on the sides here, and the chandeliers out in the lobby were all purchased with Pittsburgh Community Theater monies. At the end of the season, since we paid very minimal rent, whatever we had left over, we would do something to help make this theater better. We provided our own lights, and we actually had we had used our sound system for over 10 years here in the theater so that it could be usable. Now, another thing too, throughout the years, because we are all based on the educational part, many of us within PCT were teachers. And we always have such a thrill seeing our young kids grow up. In fact, from our theater group, one person, their very first show was The Sound of Music, and that was Steve Wenslowski. And then another person who was not, it wasn't her first show, Elisa Humphreys, who was our Annie. Both performed on Broadway and have been in national touring companies. Some of our members that started here started other theater groups. Noelle Arms is now Poison Apple Productions. And Roxanne Pardee now has the Clayton Community Theater. So, who knows how many people have been impacted by Betty Brown's dream. Many thought it was impossible. But you know, next year marks our 40th anniversary of being incorporated. So to honor my dear friend, thank you. And I forgot to say something. I don't know why I'm so nervous, but it's very emotional for me. But at one point we decided we need to incorporate so we can become tax deductible. And we go, what do we do? So Betty went to the store and bought a book, How to Incorporate. So we had a meeting, we sat down, opened the book, and filled out all the forms, and spent one day up in Sacramento, going from building to building to building to building, and we came back as Pittsburgh Community Theater Incorporated. And that is Betty. She just never gave up on anything. But many thought of her dream was impossible here in Pittsburgh. But this does mark the 40th anniversary of us being incorporated. And so to honor my dear friend Betty, and by her request, here is the impossible dream made. To dream the impossible dream, to fight the unbeatable foe, to bear with unbearable sorrow, to run when the brave dare not go, to right the unrightable wrong, to love feared and chased from afar, to try when your arms are too weary, to reach the unreachable star. This was her quest, to follow that star, no matter how hopeless, no matter how far. She fought for the right without question or pause, and was willing to attend meetings for a PCT cause. And I know that she always was true to this glorious quest. Now her heart can lie peaceful and calm, since she gave it her best. And the world will be better for this. That one woman, scorned and covered with scars,